What is up, everybody? My name is Sensei. Well, my name is just Seth, technically. But children call me Sensei Seth, and some adults call me Sensei Seth, ironically. I'm sure you've heard Jesse and Camp, the karate nerd, talk about why some of the Okinawan aspects of the show Cobra Kai are maybe a little bit wrong. But today we're going to talk about why Cobra Kai's version of American karate is actually pretty accurate.
Perfect.
And for this episode, you know what we have to do. We have to come to my dad's karate school. Yes, that's right. I can give you insight on American karate because I grew up in American karate. Now, I'm not saying that any of these things are not applicable to Okinawan karate as well. I just don't know. I've never been to Okinawa. I've never been outside the U.S. All of my kicking endeavors have been very state-bound. So without further ado, from an actual American dojo, let's get into it. So right off the bat, what you noticed in Cobra Kai, and even in the older versions of the Karate Kid of the Cobra Kai dojo, is that they're not afraid to use equipment. They use equipment like punching bags. They kind of steer away from the more traditional things like this thing that you pick up with your fingers that I can't remember right now, or the makiwara, or the table, apparently. American dojos usually like to think more equipment and efficiency first when it comes to their training. Especially now you see more and more American dojos that have the wall lined with punching bags so they can pull them out, roll them out, and start hitting them. We talked about equipment. We also need to talk about the strength conditioning that Cobra Kai showed. They showed weights. They had a back room, a section for squats and different isometric movements. They had different sections for performance training for athletic sport. Right? That's something that Americans like to do, is they like to take those specific movements, athletic performance based, and how to get better at that sport specific training, because it is American tradition that you want to win. If you want to win, you got to be practicing all the time. More Americanized styles are trying to work on efficiency and speed of their learning first, which is why you see a lot of McDojos in American karate, to be honest. Americans like to focus on taking things that were culturally really cool somewhere else and then bringing them to America, stylizing them so they look like what every other American sees, and then making it fast and efficient for Americans to learn, because that's how we do things. As a culture, we tend not to be that patient. So it would make sense why our belt system, why our style of teaching, why our curriculum is a little bit more of a hasty. We'll put it that way. It's a little more hasty. What you'll notice is these kids get really good, really fast. Maybe not the most accurate thing, but it is something karate tries to do these days to make the process faster. Because usually if a kid comes in wanting to learn self-defense and they want to learn how to protect themselves, they don't want to wait a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, however long it takes for them to get good at fighting. They want to be able to jump into it because they are being bullied now. To go through a lifelong process that karate usually is. It's designed to be something that you're constantly adding value because it has so many different things that it should teach you. But what American karate usually does is it focuses on core things that should be able to keep you safer, or at least in a good karate school, it's what it does. Americans also tend to trim the fat a little bit more and get rid of things that we don't necessarily see as valuable and focus more on stuff like kicking. Which is awesome. Which brings me to my next point. Taekwondo and karate in the early 80s, from my understanding, were very similar. It's more of like the ITF style of Taekwondo, way more kicking involved, which brought way more kicking into karate, especially in the United States. Now, I believe that Cobra Kai is supposed to be based off of Tang Soo Do, which is a very Taekwondo-ish Korean karate type deal, which makes sense why there's so much kicking, plus kicks get chicks, we all know that at this point. Changing the subject a bit, one of the things you notice most about McDojos is that they're terrible at teaching you karate, but they're great at marketing. What you'll find is, especially in America and probably other places too, is that the better martial arts teacher they are, usually the worse they are at business. And Cobra Kai did a great job of showing that. When Johnny started Cobra Kai back up, he didn't have half the regulations he was supposed to. He didn't have any students. He had one person who came to him by accident. And while Americans are very business driven, they want to have something scalable that they can teach to a lot of people, whereas the Okinawan style, usually you don't want to teach as many people. And that's because they know that the more people you teach, the worse your teaching gets for each person. I can teach one person incredibly well, but for a room full of people, I have to teach a different way because it has to be scaled. It has to be applicable to everyone. Every word I say has to make an impact for most every person.
Quiet! 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 Quiet!
Now, the better you get at teaching, the more you understand that each different person learns a different way, and you can say different things to apply to different people. But the American way is to own a dojo, to own a school, to own a building, and to operate in it. In order to do that, that doesn't just mean you have to be good at teaching martial arts. It means you have to be good at business and marketing especially. And if there's one thing Johnny Lawrence doesn't do well, it's market. At least for the first decent bit, until he gets a little bit of help from Miguel. Like handing out flyers and everything like that, super American karate thing to do. I did it myself. I handed out the worst flyers you've ever seen. Actually, you know what? I bet I could find a picture of one. If I find a picture of one, I'll put it right here, of my first flyer. I printed out like 300 flyers, and I put them all across Dallas-Fort Worth. And it got me 0 students, because that's not how you do things anymore. And one of the things that you'll probably notice about Cobra Kai is he didn't teach any adults. And that's because right now, not a lot of adults in America take karate.
Quiet!
Karate is seen as a kids-based athletic activity. For a lot of schools, it's pretty much a daycare program. And that's happened a lot because kids make money. And what karate programs understand is that it's really easy to get a kid into karate and get them the confidence, the respect, the values, the things that are so great about martial arts, but then also do it in a safer environment. When you create a safer environment, adults want to see other things because they don't see it as useful or as they see it as kiddie. There's a reason that more kids than adults like Disney. Now, that doesn't mean that no adults like Disney. Cobra Kai understood that, and what they did is they marketed towards teens that needed help keeping themselves safe, which is something that karate is really good about doing. It's a martial art that focuses on building confidence, building respect, building things that these growing teenagers need to be able to move to the next stage of their life and become respectable adults. Or at least in Cobra Kai's, where he's trying to make that, he's just not good at it yet. And speaking of trying to make these teenagers respectable citizens of the community, Cobra Kai also goes really deep into like the struggle of the changing America that is way more, I'm not going to say coddled, but we are definitely more aware in America of sensitive subjects than we were in like 1980, where if you get in a fight in high school, now it's a big deal, where back then it really wasn't. So now we have to keep in mind different things like the gray area. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy, but that doesn't leave room for the gray area, which is perfect that Cobra Kai talked about. It started off with a hardened Johnny that didn't know any better, and then showed how he moves through this like new weird space where the best answer to a question is usually not possible. The answer back in the day used to be if somebody was bullying you, you could just punch them in the face. But now if somebody's bullying you and you punch them, like now you became a further aggressor than they were, so you're more likely to get in trouble. I think we understand things a little bit better. We have better communication these days, which means that the need to punch and kick someone in the head is usually not as important. Also, the black gis, right? I've got a black gi. I pretty much primarily wear a black gi, and it's because no other reason other than they look super cool. That's it. No other reason. And I talked to Jesse about this, and he says that black gis are actually kind of prevalent. There's no like significant value to them. They're just a different color. And the cut-off sleeves are not super abnormal either. Now, I won't cut off my sleeves, but I'm personally a roller, you know what I mean? I like to roll the sleeves up a little bit. I like to have some forearm showing. Why? I don't know. Could it be an ego thing? Could it be a looks thing or a style thing that America usually involves itself with? Yeah, probably. One of the only things that I'm going to talk about that was really more so ambitious than correct about Cobra Kai is the coolness of karate and the want of about high school age students to want to take karate, because what I've usually found is that kids in karate usually drop off at about age 12. They want to go play other sports. They want to talk to girls or boys. They want to be involved in more sport-based stuff other than karate, other than training on a daily basis. And I'm into it. I'm into the idea. And that's kind of what we have to do in order to make karate what it used to be back in the 80s and make it more cool for the average person. So Cobra Kai did a great job working towards that. I don't think we're there yet. I'll be honest. That was the most like unrealistic part of it, was the group of kids who were like, yeah, Cobra Kai, this karate is sick. And which is, I agree, karate is cool. But on average, teenagers do not think that. So let's talk about the state fair thing that they had. I don't remember what it was called. The thing where they both did the demonstration for karate. That was super accurate. It was accurate of karate schools. We used to do demos all the time growing up, where we would do cool tricks, we would do flips, we would do stuff that we didn't even learn in karate. Our demo was pretty much completely different than what our actual karate program was. And that's because it gets eyes, it gets attention. In order to get students, you have to get attention. And that's one of those things where American, like, we are business focused. We want more kids in the school, which means we have to change it up what we're doing in order to get people to have eyes on us, to be able to get people to think that karate is cool, because that's how you get people signed up for martial arts. While the Miyagi-Do karate was obviously, it's cool, it has the right values, it has the right intention. If you do it the correct way, you will learn how to better yourself. I think that sparring's necessary. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. Oh yeah, less styles in karate. So our styles are way more vague in America because we have no idea. We are not as culturally invested into karate as obviously they are in Okinawa. Like there's not the, if you train here, you can't train here. We're way more melting pot, which is exactly what America is in the first place. It's like, oh, I like this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. And we're going to make it a little less intense, and we're going to make it like a little more vague, and it's going to be ours now. Welcome to American karate. Now let's talk about sparring. Cobra Kai is huge on sparring, for a lack of better words. They do it without gloves, a little bit less safe. Not going to fly in America usually, but they get the right idea. Where Miyagi-Do is based off of self-defense only, we're never going to fight each other. Like, they go by the kata and the movements and the old school training methods. But what Cobra Kai does is they say, no, we're going to jump right into it. And we're going to practice real-time pressure testing. That doesn't make this worse or better. This makes it different. American karate usually focuses a lot less on kata and a lot more on kicks and sparring, which is like a product of what I am, right? Like, I teach kata, but I teach kata as like a byproduct, a thing that I want kids to do to get the muscle memory, not as something that's a focus where we break it down as much. We talk about the applications of it, but we don't necessarily combine the two. Like, they're usually separated things. Same goes for Taekwondo with its forms. Same thing goes for Kung Fu and its forms. Kata is usually a little more separated from training in American karate. So what do you think about Cobra Kai? Did it get a lot of the American karate aspects correct? What else did it get wrong, and what else did it get right? I want to know. Tell me. If you want more Cobra Kai content, make sure you comment below, let me know. Bars. Did you hear that rhyme? That's American karate for you. Freestyle. As a pun, because there is freestyle karate too. If you like this, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Turn on the notifications if you don't subscribe. I will Cobra Kai you so hard. Strike first, strike hard, no